Welcome back, Richard. It's good to see you this morning.
Good morning. Happy February.
Happy
How are you?
February to you as well.
It's cold.
It is cold. It's I think every patient in the past week has mentioned how it's 40 in the 40s when we wake up, in the 80s in the afternoon, and then back in the 40s by the time we go to bed. It's
I hate it when they say, I just love this cold weather. It's so wonderful. And I think, what? Wait a minute. You're in Florida. You're supposed to
Yeah.
abhor the cold.
If you just take the
Why you're
average
here.
of those, it would be
If
fine.
you like the cold, go somewhere where it's cold.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
happy February, Groundhog Day yesterday. I still don't know what that means, and I'm from Pennsylvania, but I don't know. I have no idea what ground that whole thing is about. But I know we're into February. Um, and I mean, just the time, everybody keeps saying time is flying. I think
Well,
one of the reasons that time is flying is everybody's too busy.
Well, it is. We are very busy, and I think that, and of course, you beautiful transition there, Dr. Marshall. We're going to talk about you know some of the issues of being
Right.
so busy, so cluttered with things on our calendar, things with our desks, everything that we have going on, and so we're gonna talk about some of the importance related to simplifying our lives,
Right.
to find calm and just simplify things in our lives.
Yeah, we ran into this article. It's the source, the site is an organization called Attitude. It's a blog and a website, and it's intended for people with ADHD. And so we sort of keep up with it. It's a useful resource for us. And we stumbled upon this article about 7 habits that bring calm and stability. And we took a look at it and said immediately, wow, anybody could use this. It's not just, we didn't think it was useful only for people with ADHD, but perhaps all of us could benefit
Mhm.
from a little calm and a little stability and a little serenity.
Absolutely. We live in a very hectic and busy and demanding society, in a very busy world. You
You
know,
know, I don't think people realize or appreciate how busy we Americans are.
right.
Um, you go to other countries, the pace is different.
Mhm.
There isn't a frenetic pace. There isn't fear about your job and about healthcare. We have a very frantic pace in this country. It's only increasing because of technology. It didn't increase only because of technology. It increased because of that's the way America works. This hard driving, got to get ahead, got to keep up. That's maybe a uniquely American trait, but it creates the kind of conditions that make us realize that every once in a while you need to stop and slow down and reset. And that's what this article is about.
Absolutely. We've met in and talked on the podcast here many times in over the past couple of years, actually, about how the rates of anxiety and depression continue to increase. The
Right.
suicide rates are increasing. Job insecurity is, a major concern and issue for everyone. Financial insecurity, and so we're all overwhelmed. And,
Right.
and yeah, you're absolutely right. It's time that we have to remember, and it's nice every once in a while to have reminders to just kind of hit a reset. Hey, let's find some calm. Let's figure out how we can, resolve some of this stress, or manage some of this stress a little bit better so that we can function better.
Right. This writer, she she says we are in the era of more. And I like that phrase
Mhm.
because we really are. We have more worries, we have more grief, we have more possessions. I mean, we are frantically shopping. I was thinking about this the other day. We all talk about advertisers. Advertisers make us want to do things.
Mhm.
They make us want to have stuff. And I thought, well, that makes Amazon the world's greatest advertising agency because they have made us want stuff and they've made it very easy for us to get stuff. And so, in a way, Amazon is the great advertiser of this, of our time, because it makes you want more stuff and it makes it very easy to get to. On my street, and I'm sure this is true for you, you know, do you see an Amazon delivery truck on your street every day?
Every day, every day.
Every single day, they're up and down the street, and there are cars in our neighborhood at 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning, and they must be gig workers who deliver packages for somebody. I'm assuming it's Amazon, but they'll. At first, I was worried about it because you'd have these strange vehicles pull up at a house, and they were delivering packages at 2 and 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, it's
So,
impressive. It's impressive because on one hand, we tell ourselves we need to slow down. We need to we don't need so much stuff. We need to, manage all this better. But then at the same time, you go to Amazon or you go wherever, and it's like, oh, I can get this at 10 o'clock by 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. Let me do that. There's
right,
absolutely no need to have it by 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, but we want it and we want it now. And so what we're trying to balance that shopping online convenience with the
right.
immediacy of shopping in a store and having it right now. And we're combining those two things. And it makes life easier in some ways, but again, it keeps things, at this frantic pace
Mhm.
that, if we're not careful, we're going to reach this tipping point where there's so much pressure, so much, so many demands that, our brain, everything, we're just going to shut down,
That's
and
right. And
we get
what
sick and everything else.
That's right. What this article is about is it's people with ADHD, their brains sort of deceive them, because you get overwhelmed easily. You seek stimulation, but you're easily overwhelmed. Well, truth be told, all brains work that way.
Right.
And what this is about, what we're going to be talking about in this podcast is the human brain is structured to want stimulation. It seeks stimulation. It seeks pleasure. That's what it's built to do. But you have to be very careful because that seductive urge to have more and to do more and to be more, that's a seductive biological urge that most of us have.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to be careful because you're not going to realize it. But at some point, you're going to reach a tipping point. And
Mm-hmm.
instead of your brain being stimulated by everything, it's suddenly going to shut down because
Right.
there's too much stimulation. And you're not going to realize it's happening until it's too late.
Right.
So, what we want to do here is we want to recognize that we do get overwhelmed. We do have this tendency to shut down, and that every once in a while, you have to have a brain reset. And the brain reset, one is an emergency room brain reset,
Right.
and another is a prevention brain reset. So we
Right.
want to talk about an immediate brain reset when you are acutely overwhelmed, but we also want to talk about things you can do to prevent yourself from getting to that tipping point.
Absolutely. And this article offers, 7 steps, seven
Yeah.
things that you can do to help
Right.
simplify your life and to help you with that mental and emotional reset. And it's funny, like I always, this is on maybe on a tangent, but it's always funny to me how many when authors write and they say, here's 7 things, here's 6 things. We typically do 3 things, because three
You
seems to
do.
be like an easy.
You do 3 things.
I always do 3 things. And so this is 7, and it's like 7 is
Wow.
such an interesting number.
Right.
I mean, but anyways, so there's 7 things that this author writes about, 7 little strategies, 7 things that you can do to help simplify your life. And the first thing, interestingly, there's 7 things, but to take a 6-second pause, not
Right.
6 seconds, but they say that it's 6 seconds because that's the amount of time it takes for the prefrontal cortex to respond, after the amygdala. This is a very internal structures in our brain between the time our amygdala creates some response to something happening in our environment and our frontal lobes to respond.
Right. Yeah,
It,
I mean, we talk about this all the time. I hadn't put it in quite the same terms as she does. But what she says is that, when you get overwhelmed, it's the amygdala that's telling your brain you got to do
right.
something, and what it usually does is fight or flight. And what she recommends is when you feel yourself getting to that point where you want to just scream or tear your hair out, pause for 6 seconds because It takes 6 seconds for the front of your brain, which controls your emotions, to respond to the emotions that are being produced. And so if you can't stop, she said, one of the ways to do it is to think of 6 cities that begin with the letter P,
Right.
or 6 things that are in the room right now.
Hmm.
You can look around the room and say, I see this, and I see this, and I see this. If you do 6 things, it takes about 6 seconds.
Right.
And at that point, your thinking brain, the inhibitory mechanisms of the frontal lobe should manage those big emotions coming out of the center of your brain. And so it's really a good tactic to use. I mean, we use various terms for that. We're going to talk about it a little bit later. But it's a nice strategy to use. Just do something that takes you 6 seconds, and and if you're thinking about something else, you'll replace that emotion
Hmm.
with calm, and
Right.
you can get back on track. That's sort of the emergency room visit. This is what you do when you have acute anxiety.
Absolutely. And, we recognize that it's difficult sometimes to recognize it before you switch over into that fight or flight.
Right, right,
The critical piece to this is recognizing it as early as possible. When you start feeling yourself, get a little bit worked up, maybe if we were here in session, sitting and you were sitting on the couch, one of the things that we would talk to you about is, what does your body feel like when you're starting to get worked up like
right.
that?
Yeah,
When you can feel you can start feeling fidgety, your hands start to sweat, or you start to feel shaky or something.
right.
As soon as you start to feel some of those things, that's when you pause for a minute, take those 6 seconds, look for, how many things in the room that you can find that start with the letter P, or that, are a certain color or something like that. But just to take that short pause to let your brain catch up with what's happening.
Yeah,
Um,
counting, people say count to 10, step back and count to 10, because
yeah.
it takes about 6 seconds to count to 10.
Mhm.
It's all the same stuff. And what you're doing is you're putting something else, you're making your brain go someplace else.
Right.
And that's what you want to do to break that emotional tension.
Right. The second strategy, and this is something I think that many of us need to learn how to do, and that is to
Exactly. Right.
learn to say no. Um,
Right.
not a rude, harsh, you know, hard no, but
Right.
polite no. No, thank you for asking, but I'm not gonna be able to do that. I'm not available that day, or I can't give it I don't have the opportunity right now to give it the time that it deserves. But just we have to learn to not take on everything that's offered or available to
Right.
us.
Yeah, but and the important thing is you do it in a gentle way.
Right.
So think of some phrases that you can use so that when people ask you to do things that you really don't want to do, you have a ready response. You're not scrambling to get the right words. And if you say things like, I'd really love to, but I have to do this, or I'm just not going to be able, it's a great project. I'm just not going to be able to give it the time that it deserves. You can back out of these things gently. The other thing you have to do is you have to think about things like what will I need to give up in order to do what this person's asking me to do?
Right.
Um, Bernie, I don't. You may have gotten a notification. I guess there's going to be another round of book readings,
Uh,
evaluations.
no, I
No,
haven't seen that yet.
I'm not going to be able to do that this year.
Right.
We did it. We did it last year.
Mhm.
I like the project. I think it's worthwhile. But I'm working on a book myself, and I know I'm not going to have the time. And
Right.
so, what do I need to give up to do this? I'd have to give up writing my own book in order to do that project. I like the project, I just can't give up the book that I'm working on. Right. The other thing is, how important is this to me?
Right.
If it's not really urgent, then maybe you shouldn't do it. And the most important question is, if I'm trying to simplify my life, does taking on this project simplify my life?
Right.
Because if it doesn't, you're dragging everything in the opposite direction.
Absolutely. And I think it's such a good advice that you give to say, start thinking about this now, in anticipation of someone asking you to do something,
Mhm.
have some responses sort of in your toolkit, in your belt, ready to go, so that
Mhm.
you're not like, sure, yeah, I think that I can maybe, let me look at my calendar. you know, I think that having some being prepared, and we kind of know, when a project is presented to us or an opportunity is presented to us, you kind of have that gut feeling immediately that says, oh, I really don't want to do that.
Right. Yeah.
If you have that gut feeling, don't do it. That's when you pull that little line from your tool belt and say, I really appreciate you asking, but I don't think I'm going to be able to this time.
Right.
If there's something in you that says, oh my gosh, this sounds so exciting, that's when you want
Mhm.
to pause and say, you know what, let me give some time to think about it, see if I'm going to have the time and opportunity to participate.
Right.
Don't, avoid saying yes immediately. And take that time to really consider, as you said, do I have the time to do it? Do I have the energy to
Right.
put into it? How important is it? And does it
Mhm.
really help me with what I'm trying to accomplish right now?
Right.
Those are
Right.
good advice.
Yep.
The third step is to take a moment to rein in some of those nonstop thoughts.
Mhm.
We talk a lot on the podcast about practicing mindfulness, for example.
Mhm.
Just taking a moment to pause and sit and even close your eyes, but just take a moment to stop and just be quiet for a moment.
Mhm. Mhm.
We can't overemphasize the importance of just being quiet for a few moments.
Right. Yeah. This tends to happen when you're doing a mindless task, so doing dishes or brushing your teeth, taking a shower,
Mhm.
trying to go to sleep. For many of us, it's when you're trying to go to sleep,
Right,
not doing anything, so your brain starts racing.
right.
Okay. And you start to get all these thoughts like I'm rambling in your head. People say it like the hamster wheel, or I have too many thoughts and I can't. No, you can, but it's an effortful process, and you have to practice what we call mindfulness.
Not
And you
mindlessness,
Well, it's a
mindfulness.
mindless thing that's getting you to
Right,
that's why you have to become more mindful, because your thoughts are just racing
right.
because you're not occupied. So what you do is reoccupy yourself. And you can do that in a couple of ways. The easiest way is just start talking to yourself and say, okay, let's think about what's in the room. Think about what's in your
Hmm.
present environment.
Yeah.
Focus on where you are and what you're doing right now,
Mhm.
and that will slow it down. That'll begin to slow it down. But you have to learn how to do that. These things take practice. And
Absolutely. And there's been some fascinating research that's come
yeah,
out and talked about how to implement this stuff, like even in school systems where,
right,
teachers can you just pause for, it doesn't take long, like 2 minutes, but you pause and you say, okay, everybody, you turn the lights out in the classroom. All right, everybody put your pencils down, close your eyes. All
right,
right, now let's take a deep breath. Let's think about how our toes feel in our shoes. Let's think about how we feel sitting in our seat. Just
right,
go through a couple of things. Deep breath. All right, turn lights back on. Okay, now everybody get back to work. And
right.
research has shown that those kinds of simple strategies
Mhm.
have a profound effect on inappropriate behavior, on students feeling overwhelmed, students getting, experiencing a lot of stress and anxiety and stuff. So, that simple act of being a little bit mindful, just a few times throughout the day, periodically throughout the day, can make a profound improvement in different areas of our life.
Yeah, in classrooms, they used to call these brain breaks.
Yeah.
And the kids knew what that meant. Let's take a brain break. They get up and move around and talk and laugh and and just release all that tension so that
Mhm.
you can get back and focus on what you're doing.
Now, talking about tension, number four
Oh,
is we've heard the old adage, clear space, clear mind. And when your in physical environment is full of clutter, your brain, your thoughts, your mind is going to be full of clutter. It
exactly.
is really difficult to think in an organized, structured, systematic way when everything around you is cluttered and disorganized and everything. So number four is to clear your physical space, clear the clutter that's around you, and get your space set in a way that makes you more productive, more
Right.
organized, more mindful.
That's right. I can't emphasize this enough. I mean, I've had more friends, relatives, patients this year say, I have got to declutter. I have got to get rid of some of my Amazon deliveries. It's just overwhelming. if you have, first of all, you have to acknowledge that it's a problem.
Hmm.
And she emphasized that. You have to, first of all, say, yes, I got to get rid of all this stuff. I have to clear my workspace of all this stuff. Okay. It's very difficult to do. And what she recommends is you narrow the focus. Just clean off your desk
Hmm.
or get all the bottles, jars, and cans, or take one room or one area. Narrow the focus so that you can get it done. When you're doing the project and you get tired, leave a sticky note as to what you're supposed to do next. So when you get up the next morning, you'll know exactly where to begin. Otherwise, you're going to get up the next morning and be completely overwhelmed again. All
Right.
right. So leave yourself a note and then start getting rid of stuff. I know it's hard. It's Marie Kondo and all that stuff. It's extremely hard to get rid of your possessions.
Yeah.
You paid money for them, you like them, very difficult to get rid of them. But you have to rid the clutter. If
Yeah.
you have a room, if you have a study at home, it's probably a mess. Well, then put everything in plastic bins and put them in a closet so you don't see them every day. All right. If you see the clutter, you're going to be cluttered.
Absolutely. Now, number 5 is another thing that we've talked about many
Oh
times on
man.
the podcast, and that is we got to get better sleep. And Richard, hey, full disclosure, we fall into this category. Here we are. We've been here since 4 o'clock this morning.
What
Um,
time did you get up this morning?
just a little bit before 4. But that's the latest I've slept all week.
That's what I was getting to.
Mhm.
That you and I have been up around 2 or 2:30 every day this week.
Right.
So yes, we recognize, and we are going to have to do these things.
Yeah.
Um, reinstitute the regular bedtime.
Right.
You know, turn everything off.
Right.
When do you watch TikTok, Bernie?
When?
Night?
Yeah, periodically.
You send me very interesting TikTok things, and I
Well,
think I hope that's not keeping you up at night. I
no,
appreciate them. I don't want it to wreck your sleep.
no, that's no, that doesn't. I'm not doing that in the middle of the night. That happens periodically when I hear about things or whatever. But
Okay.
you're right. You got to turn things off, and you got to have some routine, some going to bed at a regular time. Turning things off. I like the ideas that this author talks about with changing your pillow every few years,
I didn't
replacing
know that. Did
this.
you know that? Change your pillow?
I've heard it before, but I don't know that I've always
Yeah.
implemented it, used it.
Yeah, now I have to go get a new pillow and a new mattress.
Yep, it's been a
All
long
right, because
time.
I think I changed mine a generation ago.
Yeah,
No, I don't think about this stuff, but seeing this and seeing these reminders said, oh yeah, you have to do everything you can to improve sleep.
right. Now I love number 6, and number 6 is
Yeah.
you need to know yourself, and
Mhm.
I think that this one is so important because how many of us really take a moment or take the time necessary to really know ourselves? You know,
Right.
not who we're trying to be for everybody else,
Mhm.
who we're trying to portray ourselves at, but who we really are. What do you love to do? Who do you want to be with? What are your strengths? What are my weaknesses?
Yep.
What can I do to be better? What can I get rid of? We have to know ourselves in order to, be at peace, be at calm with ourselves.
Right.
We need to know ourselves.
I ask people all the time. I'll be talking to people and I'll say, well, what do you want to do? What do you really want to? Well, I don't know. Well, what do you really want to study? What do you want to major? Well, I don't know. I think people do know.
Hmm.
I think that introspection, getting to know yourself well, is very difficult because
Hmm.
we have these defense mechanisms that we say, well, I'd like to, but then I'll be criticized. Well, I'd like to, but what are people going to say? Well,
Right.
I'd like to, but I'd like to, but I think so, but if you get rid of the but for a moment,
Hmm.
I think we all know, but I think we're afraid to admit.
Right.
So ask yourselves simpler questions, okay? There's two ways to do it. One is simpler questions. The other thing I think that everybody should do is get rid of the so-called experts in your life.
Right.
We have access to podcasts, blogs, family members, friends. And we have all these people. Oh, I listen to so and so. Oh, I listen to this person. Oh, I listen to that person. Oh, this person. They're offering general advice. It may or may not apply to you. It may sound good, but it may have nothing to do with your life.
Right.
Okay. So be very careful about the advice and what you do with the advice that you get from so-called experts.
Including us. You know, we we,
Absolutely.
we are providing information that may help loads of people, but it may not help
Right.
you specifically. You know, what
That's
you
right.
need specifically maybe a little bit different, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But I think that the idea of knowing yourself and knowing, you know what, that's not going to work for me. I
Hmm.
think that that's okay. To say, you know what, I know that the research, I know everything says that this is what I should do or what people should do. But when I've done that, it hasn't really helped me out that much. And so I need to tweak it. I need to adjust it. I need to do it a little bit different. Even though the research doesn't suggest that, this is what
Right.
I need to do it because that's what I need for me. And that's
That's right.
okay.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, maybe great advice for somebody else. People come to you and say, "Oh my God, I did this and it helped me so much." Oh, go ahead and try it, but don't be disappointed if it didn't help you because it may be great advice. It just doesn't fit you. It doesn't suit you.
Right.
Um, we'll frequently get people to say, "Well, I don't know what to do. I'm here. I want you to tell me what to do." I
Right.
can't tell you what to do.
Right.
I can help you understand what you want or what you'd like to do, but I can't tell you what to do. That's not our job.
Yeah. I think
I
that's
would begin
frustrates
with,
people so much sometimes because they come in and they just want us to tell them this is what you do to make life better.
right.
We can't do that. I don't know what's going to, you know,
I don't know
I
what
can
you,
help you follow that path to figure it out.
no,
And I
I
can give
can
you some
help
things to
you.
think about.
I can help you discover what's important to you.
Yeah.
We can have that conversation, but that takes work. We don't, there's something about us that we don't like to go to those deep parts of our bodies and brains.
Right.
We're a little bit afraid of that. But I would begin with simple questions. What do I love to do? What
Right.
do I really like to do? And once I know that, once I admit that, I say, okay, then go do that because
Right.
that's what you really enjoy doing. And the second thing is, who do I want to be with? With whom do I want to spend my time?
Right.
Okay. And there are lots of people I really don't want to be with. Well, then don't be with them. If it's not something you really enjoy doing, don't do it.
Right.
Whether it's coaching your kid's team or playing a sport that you really don't enjoy. Hey, if you like pickleball, go play pickleball. But if you don't
Right.
do what you like to do. Do what enriches you. It's
Right.
just
Because and I think that what this does, and it ties it in with number seven, is that understanding yourself allows you to get rid of the things that are complicating your life, that are making your
fun.
life more difficult.
Right.
And number seven in this list from this author is commit to simplicity. And
Mhm.
that is sort of the overarching goal of all of these things is
Right.
to, you know, commit yourself to saying, I'm not going to take on things that make my life more complicated. I'm not going to continue to do things that make my life more complicated. I'm not going to allow my environment to remain cluttered and disorganized because that makes my life more complicated.
Right.
You know, taking these steps and committing to having a more simplistic environment and you know mentality so that you can access those full, you know, the deep recesses of your brain and fully access everything that you know and that you want and live the life
Mhm.
that you want to live.
Right. Yeah. And so I think I would think in terms of two broad things. One is stop chasing stuff, whether it's the internet or social media or purchases. Okay. Try to slow that down, all the stuff you're chasing. And at the same time, start practicing these getting to calm exercises, declutter your space, learn to do mindfulness. Think more about what is really important to you, not just keeping up with everybody else, but what's really important to you. So stop doing some things and start doing other things. And I think that would be a good way to approach 2024. You're in a new year. It's a good time to make these kind of changes.
Absolutely. So everybody go home, work on that. Okay. You know, take that
That's it.
advice.
We'll tell you exactly what to do.
That's
No,
right.
we're not going to tell you what to do.
No,
No,
no, you have to find that for yourself. Again, I really like that, you know, get to know yourself. So,
right,
all
right.
right, that's it for today. Um, First podcast of February.
February, right?
All right. So good luck, everyone. Until next time, stay happy, stay healthy, and forget to be afraid.